Hello and welcome to another edition of the Bastard Review. This time around I'm looking at NWA's Wrestle War 89. This event took place on May 7th, 1989 in the Nashville Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee. Thankfully this had about a 20-minute video package prior to the show explaining most of the build-up to these matches, so it helped get me really hyped. We start things off with the Oak Ridge Boys singing the national anthem a cappella, and I hope this is what they mean by them performing in the show. Our first match of the night is the Great Muta taking on Doug Gilbert, who was substituting for the Junkyard Dog in what turns out to be very one-sided. Muta makes short work of Doug with a beautiful moonsault a little over 3 minutes in. Muta also manages to take a standing dive over the ropes onto Doug standing outside the ring, a dozen or so seconds prior to the pin. I certainly hope such an easily owning wasn't to be JYD's fate if he had shown up. I'm not going to rate this because it really wasn't a match, but I will say that Muta does a great job of impressing me here, and I look forward to seeing more of what he has to offer. After that, Butch Reed takes on Ranger Ross, who I have to figure is NWA's response to Sergeant Slaughter. It's a short, relatively slow-paced 6-minute match. A few minutes in, former referee Teddy Long comes out to take notes. More on him later. No story, no build-up, and I gotta wonder why it's on the card to begin with. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. Up next, Dick Murdoch takes on Bob Orton in a bull rope match. Weeks prior, Bob's manager Gary Hart had cost Dick the win when he interfered on Bob's behalf. This was the rematch, with Dick being the veteran of the stipulation. There are subtle little clues that lead me to believe this is Bob's first bull rope match. No selling when hit by the strap is an example. This is another short match, clocking in just under the 5-minute mark, and I'm left wanting just as it starts to get good. They should have devoted a little more time, at least another 5 minutes. From what I've read, it seems like the feud fizzled out afterwards, so I suppose it's just as well. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. After that, Paulie Dangerously's latest tag team, the Samoan SWAT team of Samu and Fatu, take on the dynamic dudes of Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas. You might recognize some of the men in this match. Fatu, who not only is young here, but a good 150 pounds lighter than what I'm used to seeing, would later wrestle in the WWF under the name Rikishi. Johnny spent the 90s in All Japan Pro Wrestling and is currently part of talent relations for the WWE. And, oh yeah, Shane you might know from a little bingo hall wrestling promotion that I've devoted close to 40 Bastard reviews about. And while both of the teams are somewhat low profile on this card, they still manage to put on a really good show. Johnny spends an amazing amount of time in the ring taking punishment from the SST. There's also one moment that flows really well. Fatu tags in as Johnny gets an Irish whipped into the ropes. He leapfrogs over Samu and receives a kick from Fatu right to the face. It was just seamless and really impressive. Fatu also does a really nice frog splash onto Douglas. The end sees the dudes, and honestly, both teams have pretty silly names, pick up the win when Samu has Shane up for what looks like to be a start of a body slam, but Johnny dives off the turnbuckle with a missile dropkick onto them, sending both men down with Shane on top for the pin. Nothing spectacular, but a fun little match. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Then there's a promotional package for the main event with Europe's Final Countdown, spliced with footage from previous Flair Steamboat matches, and it definitely helps to build my excitement. You remember how I said I hoped ORB wouldn't play? Well, they do. But thankfully technology has created the fast forward button. Afterwards, Lance Russell talks with the 3 judges should the main event go over the hour time limit, and those are Luthez, Pat O'Connor, and Terry Funk. After that, Lex Luger defends his NWA United States Heavyweight title against Michael Hayes. Early in the night, Hayes cuts a good promo saying, "I got what it takes to take what Luger's got." A month or so prior, Michael and Lex had teamed up only for Hayes to turn on Luger, siding with Hiro Masato's corporation almost immediately. Since then, they've been at each other's heels. It's an odd matchup, and I think Hayes turned simply to give Luger someone to feud with. The match is slow and plodding. Michaels gets out of the ring multiple times to break things up, and panders more to the audience than he tries to win the title. The end sees Terry Gordy, Michaels' Freebird partner, return and help Hayes win, and I'm surprised at how little is accomplished when given a decent amount of time. This booking really could have used some major retooling. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Sting cuts a promo prior to defending his NWA World TV title against the Iron Sheik, and yet again, it feels like Sting is the NWA's answer to the Ultimate Warrior. He wears face paint, is high energy, and if that isn't enough, tell me his music doesn't sound like Warrior's theme. Sheik starts the match by blatantly attacking Sting with his Iranian flag, but ultimately falls to a Stinger Splash and Scorpion Deathlock as Sting retains his title just over the 2-minute mark. Again, I'm not going to rate this because it's barely a match. Up next, Ricky Steamboat defends his NWA World Heavyweight title against Ric Flair, and while this is a great match, there are a few things I don't like. Foremost, it's supposedly Flair's last chance at the title while Ricky's champion, so it's almost a giveaway that Flair will regain the title. If they were going to use this stipulation, they should have followed through with it and given Ricky a longer run with the belt. During the early half, Steamboat focuses on Ric's left arm, which doesn't make sense. I would have gone after Flair's knees and legs, considering he uses them for his signature figure 4 leg lock. The match clocks in just over the 30-minute mark, which is impressive, but earlier in the night they talked to the judges. Wouldn't it be more monumental if this did go to the 60-minute draw? Otherwise, it's a great match. Ricky gives Flair an impressive superplex, and there are quite a few close calls in the second half. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. Post-match, Terry Funk gets into the ring to congratulate Flair, and then attacks him when Rick scoffs at Funk's challenge for the title, and I can see where this is going. After that, yep, that's not the main event. The Varsity Club of Mike Rotunda and Steve Williams defend their NWA World Tag Team titles against Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors. As well, Nikita Koloff is the guest referee, and I can see why from the way the match ends. Dan Spivey and Kevin Sullivan attack Koloff, leading to the Varsity Club being disqualified. Unfortunately, that means that while Hawk and Animal win, the titles stay with the Varsity Club. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Finally, we come to the main event. Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner defend their NWA US Tag Team titles against the Varsity Club of Dan Spivey and Kevin Sullivan. Honestly, I have to question why this is the main event. After the excitement of the Steamboat Flair match, this is just a horrible come-down. Both matches have some story to them, but they just aren't main event material. Gilbert and Steiner retain the titles, and I'm sure the feud isn't over. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Post-match, it's revealed that Mike and Steve are stripped of their World Tag Team titles due to Spivey and Sullivan attacking an NWA official. Why didn't the officials just ban Spivey and Sullivan from their title shot instead? Shortly after this show, the Varsity Club pretty much breaks up, so it's an odd way to free up the World Tag titles. Why not just have the Road Warriors win them back? Overall, Wrestle War 89 is a very average pay-per-view. It's an overbooked card that would have greatly benefited from some cutting and reshuffling. No disrespect to ORB fans, but no band deserves 17 minutes of a wrestling pay-per-view. Finally, Flair Steamboat should have gone the hour and been the main event. At the end of the day, that's the only match on here worth your time. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Thank you for listening. Please tune in again when I review another wrestling DVD in my collection or anything else that crosses my path.